All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody, thanks for being here. It's been 4.5 months since we last met, and a lot's been happening. Um, Vaughn and I have been in regular conversation about it, and I know I speak for Vaughn when I say thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be here. It says a lot that you're willing to invest your time and work toward, in a very real way, improving the industry and just helping people in general. Just wanted to take a quick second to recap the main outcome from our last meeting, and that was determining how we were going to structure RIM, whether it be standalone nonprofit or somehow roll up under RABF. And we left it in Dave Baker's hands to start the conversation with RABF, and that's been done. They were agreeable, but had some reservations about how funds would be controlled. And that led to a follow-up conversation that Vaughn had this week, and I'll hand things over to him to get rolling. And we can start there. Vaughn, you can just say what you want to say.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. Like Tony said, I think um, this meeting definitely won't last 90 minutes for sure, since we're all not here. And I was looking to put a vote on the floor if you guys can see the agenda. But with us not having everyone here, I think we probably have to hold off on that. But I'll share with you guys what happened here this week. I spoke with Ed Markham, and they were initially he was a little cold for lack of a better word, but after a little bit he warmed up and he agreed in principle to provide us with the controls. That's the problem. We can't have funds allocated and dispersed without being able to control it. And that's what I expressed to him. It's RIM must be, although it'll be under their umbrella, and we appreciate that because their platform is recognized and respected, and it would take a lot for us to have to, jump into this and create a 501c3. So we would prefer it go through them. He agreed to that in principle, and he understands that the committee, this stuff must flow through our committee. Um, I think after talking to him that this is something that the committee must agree upon first. We must determine what the steps are needed to make this agreement, because I think we're gonna have to have something in the contract with him, with the RABF, and then we get back with them and present it to them. And if there's some red lines needed, we could do that. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Dave Baker was really focused on starting a 501c3. I do not think, and we all could talk. You guys can chime in here. Do you guys think we even want to do a 501c3? I've never done one. I know the church has, and it takes a lot to do that. I would prefer we don't, but you guys can chime in.
Vaughn, I think that there's really no need for us to reinvent the wheel. I mean, RABF is already established and well respected in the industry, so I'm with you on aligning with them.
I agree 100% with you guys on that too.
So it looks like we're all in agreement. I saw James, heard you, and I saw you, Richard. So good. And the fact that Ed, was someone saying something?
Yeah, Vaughn, I was curious, in your conversation with Ed, what kind of reservations, or did he express any reservations about RIM controlling the funds? What was his big contention?
He did not express those to me, Tony.
Okay.
He did express those to Dave. Dave did not tell me what those were. To me, his demeanor was standoffish initially, and it came around. But I didn't cut corners with him. I told him that we prefer not to open up our own 501c3. We would if we had to, but and then I gave him I waxed him a little bit to tell him how great they were, and they're respected, which is true. And I think he came along. We're not trying to take any fire or glory away from the RABF, and that's what I expressed to him. So he never told me what that was, but I did tell him what we must have, and that must be full control of what donations come in and how those funds are dispersed. And he agreed to that. How we do that in principle or in contract wise is what this group has to come together first, and then we will present it to them to do their red lines. I'm thinking we should probably be able to do this within a matter of a month or so. But here's the things I thought. I wrote some things down, and you guys could just tell me these are the things I think we need to discuss or have in part of our contract. The platform will be theirs for the purpose of collecting and processing the donations. We have to have an agreement of how those funds are dispersed and allocated off of their platform on behalf of the RIM committee. And we have to make sure that our initiatives are outlined so that the RABF understands that. And this is, I'll forward this all to you guys, but the next one I think is authority. And this is a big one, that we have to have full control and authority over how those funds are dispersed. That's going to have to be in the devil's in the detail. But I think RABF will be acting as a fiduciary agent. And I think because of that, we have to abide by their compliance and regulations. Jeremiah, you may know more of that. Is that something how would that work as far as operating under their umbrella? Maybe you can share something on what you may know about that. I don't know. It's out of my wheelhouse here.
Well, I mean, what I would suggest is adding some functionality to their website donation process. That way, because I think it's one thing to say, hey, we need control over these funds that come in for this purpose, but distinguishing which funds are coming in for which purpose obviously that'd be the easiest way to do it, where you have a box to check and say, are you benefiting fallen or injured agents? Are you benefiting safety of agents in terms of safety equipment? So you have safety equipment box to check, or you have all other stuff, and anything given in that and under that box checked, then those funds are easily distinguished between the two. Because I think, if I put myself in Ed's shoes and think about it as I'm kind of giving up some level of control to an outside group, even though everybody has the same best interest at heart, there has to be some controls put in place. And I think that's one way to easily diversify the funds as they come in. And then, even then, in my opinion, if there is a current group within the RABF that decides how their funds are dispersed right now, maybe there's an added one or two RIM committee members that are added to their committee, so that we can even all agree with them, since they technically are legally liable for distributed funds and the legalities beyond the point of operating that 501(c), that we just say, we want to have some say in how these funds in this silo are dispersed, and we're okay with you guys also providing input because we're operating under the RABF. But that's the way I would do it. And then you can easily disperse funds into each group, and you can also take donations with the intent of helping one or the other or both, right? So we can split donations if you wanted to, and say, I want to send 500 to this one and 500 to this one. Right. And so you're equally distributed.
The devil's in the details on that too, because we have to say exactly what we want it to look like. It's essentially a vote, right? And the language or the explanation or how the page works and how the menu works is going to, we're going to be attempting, as ARA and NARS and all the people on this meeting have always done, is try to direct traffic to RABF. But now you're going to be directing traffic to RABF, and you're going to probably be saying, hey, if you're going to donate, please donate half your money here and half your money here, right? Or you may be specifically lobbying clients to please go donate directly to this particular cause, and you don't want to have that traffic misdirected.
Yeah. That's a good point. Jeremiah, do you think it'd be best for us to maybe just the funds be collected by us and we send them a check or wire the funds into an account? It's a lot cleaner. That's what I was thinking. It'd be better for us to do it that way, but we should discuss that.
Is the ARA a 501(c)(3)?
No.
I would ask a CPA about that, because you're taking funds in. Obviously, your tax deductible amount on a donation to a charity isn't 100%. Typically, it's only a percentage of total. So you're taking in revenue, then you're giving out the same quantity of revenue, and you're only getting a benefit from a taxation standpoint to a certain degree. So it's going to cost you money to do that. And I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a CPA say, no, it's perfectly fine as a pass through. You can flow it through this organization to this one and there's no tax implications. But if you're not a nonprofit, then I can't see how it's not taxable from a revenue standpoint. And if y'all are a Texas association, right? Your business license is held in Texas.
Yes.
So you may be subject to the franchise tax of $1 million. If you take in more than $1 million in a single year, you have to pay a franchise tax of 1 or 2%. So I would just get advice from a CPA, which I'm happy to do that if you want me to. I mean, I have a CPA that I work with that would know how to treat that, but I wouldn't recommend doing it that way.
Okay. Hey, Ron, how you doing? I don't know how much you've heard of this, but I'll give you a little just catch you up where we're at, and then you can chime in. We had a conversation with Ed Markham, and he's agreed in principle to allow these funds to flow through the RABF. Where we're at now is how those funds will be collected. Will they be collected through their website, which is what Jeremiah recommended, or us cutting a check? And Jeremiah just laid out some reasons why we shouldn't do it that way. But any input you have is welcome.
Okay, and I apologize for being late. I got tied up with a train this morning, and on the way in, I had to wait 10 minutes to get around the track. I think Jeremiah has a good point there. I heard that right there at the end, and I think if you can funnel the money directly through RABF, where it's not going through a third party, second party, whatever, that legitimately, I think that would be better for the logistical method of collecting the money. And also within the industry, everybody knows who RABF is. They trust them. They've been collecting money for years and years. There's never been any question about where the money goes. So that facade there of trustworthiness would also, I think, endear more people to give money to the program.
I agree. Do we all agree on that on the call? James?
Yes, with the proper controls on the front end of the website.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys have taken a look at their website, but that would be the key. How much would it cost for us to update this site so that the end user, when they visit this site, they know exactly what they're going in for, and that's going to create some changing to their site.
So that's what I was going to say. If whoever they have doing their website development design, if Ed knows who that is and he wants to connect us with them, then we can get them to give us a quote on what it would cost to add that functionality into the donate page, this is a pretty simple website in terms of how it's built and the framework of it. It shouldn't cost that much to update it. And, then you can make it really clear. When you click that make a donation, it takes you to the site and it lays it out very clear. And you can even have examples of the equipment, right? And then fallen and injured agents or safety equipment. It's just 2 donation boxes, and you can put money in both and hit donate and do it all at the same time. That would be pretty simple to build and pretty easy logic.
I think that way it would also benefit the RABF. They'd probably get a little more traffic into their site, and if it gives them the option to donate to both rather than one, it might be beneficial to them. Because otherwise, there's no benefit to them doing this. I don't believe. I know they're not in this to make money, but we definitely want to make sure that we show them appreciation for their time. Guys, I have like 7 or 8 things, and I think for time's sake, if you guys agree with this, I can have the attorney put this in a contract form, send this out to our group only to the committee, and then we make our own internal marks, red lines to it, send it back to the attorney, and then we could push it over to Ed and his group. Ron, you weren't on the call, but what we want to do is we want to present them with an agreement. I don't want to say contract, an agreement, so to speak, and they will do what they want to do on their side, and then both groups will come together and discuss how we move forward.
Right.
But I'm thinking that we need to make sure we have compliance, the termination, the duration of how long this agreement will be in place, how they report back and forth to us, the transparency of those numbers. And I don't think, to your point, Ron, we trust them. They've never done anything for us not to. So I don't think those will be a problem. But the devil's in the details. We want to make sure we put it in an agreement form so that we all are on the same page.
Absolutely. Trust everybody, but always cut the cards.
That's right. Okay, so not to go through all the weeds on that, if you guys agree with that, I will forward this over to an attorney to make sure we have everything that we believe is necessary, and then we'll present it to you guys, to the committee first, to review the agreement, and before we request a Zoom call with the folks over at RBF. You guys agree with that?
100%.
Okay. Ron, on the last call, you made mention about us going into the socialist realm, and I thought about that sincerely after the call, and this is where I thought a vote was needed. I was talking to Mark Lasik the other day, and he shared with me probably 50 or 60 magazines from the old magazine he used to publish. And one of the things back in the days was most banks looked forward to or required anyone to be a part of something to get their work. Today, people come into this space, unabated. I think we discussed this last time, and the way to get this away from a socialist sort of deal would be, if you want to take advantage of this, you must be a part of something. Because whether you're Eagle 20, ARA, or Allied, or any other credible association, we believe that we push training to anyone who's a member. This will align folks who are taking advantage of this to be a part of something to mitigate damage and risk to their employees. That was going to be the vote. I think we do have a quorum here because there's only 2 missing. Or do you guys think we should wait for the full committee to even discuss that?
I think the decision needs to be made. I'm already hearing things, well, this group was formed, but they haven't done anything yet. I think, if you have a quorum, I think we need to move forward with any ideas put up. That's my thought.
I agree. Any discussion on this before we even put it on a motion on the floor?
No, Vaughn, I'm just saying that I agree with that they should be a member in good standing of something, because it shows that they have the credentials that are needed, and it forces them to get the appropriate credentials and training. I mean,
Is the vote that they have to be a part of an association first, and then second, what those associations are? Do we talk about what those associations?
Let me do this. Let me do it correct, James. Let me make a motion. Let me put a motion on the floor, and then we'll have a discussion. I'll make a motion that, and I'll try to make this as simple as I can. Any person or entity that takes advantage of, that is a recipient of any safety equipment provided by the RIM committee, must be a member in good standings with the ARA, Eagle 20, Allied, or I should say AFA, or any other credible association.
State associations.
State association, yeah, any other credible association.
So yeah.
Second motion.
Okay, Ron is seconded, so let's open it for discussion. James, to you.
Concept, absolutely, 100%. I think it comes down to the language. Just again, I think it's pretty simple. You probably have it 90% of the way there. We just need to add all the state associations. We probably need to have a vote on how wide that is. And then we need to have a particular offset for somebody who's in legitimate business working for a company that is not a member of associations. However, is somebody who's seeking donation or seeking a discount. I think the system, there should be some mechanism, potentially at least bullet pointed off to the side, that there could seek approval under conditional circumstances, because you might have good people out there that work for companies that just don't have their head screwed on straight.
Understood.
I think that the word credible association is a little bit vague and ambiguous. If we're, I think we need to define that. Like, I can tell you that in Ohio, you have to present an ARA or AFA certificate, or show that you've taken the CARS test or some kind of credentials for us to consider your membership to join in Ohio. But I don't know if all the other states are like that.
Well,
I agree with Amy there, and something that, I have a question about. I agree that the word credible is, very ambiguous. It covers a lot of area. And an example, and I'm going to use Oklahoma. We formed a state association. To the best of my knowledge, we've had it's been formed for close to a year. We've had 2 meetings. No one's paid any dues. The association is there, but we've got a couple of people there who, in my language, we would call them gypsy operators that join the association. I mean, why wouldn't they? There's no dues. Nobody's paid anything. There's been no meetings. There's been nothing done. I think if we include all the state associations, there's got to be some kind of a vetting thing there. Some states have laws. If the state has a law, I think that should be included. But to say, hey, credible associations, who decides what's credible, who decides what isn't? And obviously it's going to be this group, but I think we need to take a close look at that. ARA is a national trade association. AFA is a national trade association. Eagle Group 20 is a 20 group with a national referral network. Some of the state associations are heavily involved in training, and they have their own training programs like TARP. Amy, I know you guys have worked hard up there to get stuff going like that. And then some of the associations may have done nothing. So how do we vet that? Will there be a committee to vet it? Or, I mean, you can say state associations that meet certain criteria, but then somebody has to vet that criteria and make sure they've done that. So I think we need to be very careful about how we put that language in there.
I agree.
What about the word approved state association?
I like approved.
Mhm.
Yeah. Approved.
Well, Ron, you open up another can of worms. Should we just lock this into the 3 known? I don't want to discount the states, but should we just make it a national association, or these 3: ARA, Eagle 20, AFA?
Is there anyone in Eagle 20, Ron, that's not in AFA or RA or ARA? Not to
the best of my knowledge. I push very hard because I've had people ask me, well, we're members of Eagle Group. Why do we need to be a member of another association? And I tell them, we're not a trade association. That's not what we're doing. We're about education, safety, compliance. That's what we're about. And you need to be a member of either ARA or AFA, one or the other. You then have to back off and say, well, what about RSIG? Is that an association? They're basically an insurance company, but there are members in Eagle Group that are not members of AFA and ARA, but they're members of RSIG. They have their insurance through RSIG. RSIG puts out a listing. They put out a catalog, and then what about risk? And what about, like I say, it's going to be a very broad spectrum of who we put this out to. And obviously we want to put it out to people that are worthy of it. But like I say, I don't know. It's going to be Amy's word approved. You could just say an approved association. And then we look at each one individually and say, okay, this meets our criteria, and this group can set the criteria. If someone who's not a member of anything except RSIG, they have an annual meeting, they have safety stuff, they have training, they have an attorney. Would we allow them, if they were just a member of RSIG, and I say member, if they had their insurance through RSIG, would we allow them to benefit from this? Question I would put to the group.
That's a good point. Could we change? Are you recommending, Ron, remove any name from this consideration and have it as a member in good standing with an approved, but like Eagle is not an association. RSIG is not. We can't use that word association.
Group. You could use the word group. Industry group. Any approved industry group.
Anybody else want to chime in on this?
Maybe it's a little bit, maybe we're trying to build all of the things that we would look and consider into one sentence. And the reality is that it's just you're going to receive a code that you're going to go use on somebody else's website once you're ready for this discount. And so if you work backwards one step to get that approval, the committee is going to give you the approval for your purchase. So the committee is going to use a matrix of reasoning, and here are the 4 or 5 bullet points of items that we're looking at. No one single item is necessarily disqualifying because of the nature of our business and the, fracturing of our industry, but that we're looking at what kind of business are you? Are you a repossession business? Are you a tow company that occasionally does a couple repo? What are we looking at? We're looking at if you're educated in the business. We're looking at, what percentage of your business is at. There might be certain factors they could present to us beyond, I'm imagining that they could upload any one of 7 or 8 things to us, whether it's they're a state association and they're licensed from their state that's licensed. And then they have no national association, but maybe they upload some other piece of document that proves they're doing a volume of business and that they're a professional within this space. I think maybe trying to achieve a perfect decision on this is just not going to be possible, and then it's going to be left to a vote of the committee on some kind of irregular basis. And maybe that doesn't have to be a meeting. Maybe that could be something done electronically during the approval post submittal pre-approval process.
You might verbiage approved and recognized industry association or group, which is very broad. But again, that would give the committee the ability to look at any industry group or any industry association, and it would be all inclusive. Approved and recognized industry association or group.
That sounds good. Is everyone okay with that verbiage? Jeremiah?
Yeah, I'm okay with that verbiage.
Okay.
And I looked at RABF's page. They actually have really no eligibility. They have an eligibility link, but it doesn't really describe any eligibility to this degree. It's just basically a case by case basis. So I'd rather not be that vague with it.
Can I bring us back to our prior point of Vaughn's suggestion combined with Jeremiah's caution? We could set up a page that is significantly tailored to our cause, but on the back end is sending the money to the correct bank account at RABF, therefore having the necessary electronic and auditing controls, but tying directly to the original bank account and location where we want the money to reside, so it doesn't cause any revenue complications.
What site would they visit, James?
You would create, you could stand up a standalone store. You could put it within an ARA or make a particular, it could be a third party under this name. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the RABF site. It could just be a standalone site specific to this, using any of the dozens of different online commerce tools out there to take payments. But then you point that payment, instead of pointing it to ARA and then transferring money over to RABF, you could collect that money, and then that bank account that it's coming, the bank account that it'd be processing through would go directly to RABF, but then you could have the log, and you can have the printout, and you can have the database and what date somebody sent money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we can still do the functionality where we say, would you like to also donate to RABF direct? Would you like to also donate to the cause of RABF's mission for them, or 10% of everything you donate will automatically go to RABF, whatever the case may be. You could create functionality specific to us. And theoretically, you could just start working on that front end right now without publishing it through, you can get some input from Jeremiah, who's in the space. You can get, I have a web developer. Many of us, all of us have websites that we schedule appointments and do certain things through. So you could kind of start working on that as here's what we want it to look like. And then you can go through all the security controls and all that. But most payments are processed through like Stripe or PayPal or some other third party that, even though it's sitting on your website, that little transaction is happening in a separate place. It's just a portal to a secure place, but then you have control of the data log and the database as the payments are getting sent to RABF. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone.
So would it be easier, James, and you have more experience in this than I do. I'm looking at the RABF site and their banner, they have home, about us, nonprofit. Can't we add to their banner RAM or some whatever verbiage you want to use, so that the user, we direct them to the RABF site and they go to that portion rather than reinvent the wheel. We're still pushing the traffic to RABF.
But then you're gonna, you're not suggesting anything at all by the statements. I'm just simply talking about controls, right? In a very neutral way. I'm not suggesting anything wrong at all. But you don't have the incoming people, the names, you're going to be dependent upon RABF to communicate to you who's donated, when they've donated, how much they've donated, versus a slight change you accomplish for probably a few $100s a year, plus the same processing fees that they're going to pay. You point it at their bank. You're not even getting in the middle of the transaction. You're just watching the traffic. And when you're needing to make quick changes, you're just making quick changes. When you're needing to meet with the committee member and then have a web developer make a few changes on the website, you immediately make those, and then you're owning the data set of the people so that you can immediately integrate that back into your communications and all of those functionalities. But I do agree with you. You can ask RABF to modify their site. I would think it's very easy. However, I could tell you just from looking at the architecture of the site, it's not something that is as easy as most of the stuff that's available these days because of the architecture of the site. The architecture of the site, you can see on the front end, is just it's an older method. Mm-hmm. There's standing up like a Shopify or one of the different tool sets.
So James, just explain to me this, I'm not quite sure, but if we still directed the traffic to their site and we create this page, and when they click on the RAM banner, it'll point to us for the information that you're trying to, I just wanted to go through RABF and not.
Yeah, totally. If you have them create some sort of, they don't appear to have a designation within their donation page of what the donation is for. They do have like a ticket you can buy for $20. And then they do have the ability to make a donation, and they do have the ability to make a reoccurring donation. Those are all good tool sets that are, took time to set up. So you would need to have them add either a manual entry or create some kind of link that when people follow that link, like Jeremiah's talking to a banker or lender and he's like, hey, I'm going to send you an email. It's going to have a link in it. You follow that link, and when they arrive there, it fills out what they want. It already has it in the cart and it's ready to go. But ultimately, you will still be dependent upon the RABF to understand who went there and didn't check out, who went there and donated, what their name and cell phone and phone number and email, how much did they donate? Did they donate on a reoccurring basis for 5 years, or did they donate one time? So if we're comfortable with that and we're fine with that, then great. I think there are some advantages to having your cake and eating it too. So in my thought, and I can be totally off basis, but in my thought of you setting up this single purpose page wherever it needs to reside. But when the payment processor processes the payment, it goes to RABF. You can say it's going to RBF. You do all the same things you're doing now, but then you're controlling the way the site looks. You're controlling the way the donation looks when you're running a marketing campaign, or when you're doing certain things. You have total control over the way that the landing page looks. You have total control over, what information we want to collect. We want the name, the email, the address, the lender. We want to be able to quickly send a report because Jeremiah and the other forwarder lender forwarders are working on a campaign right now, and we need to get them quick notification of who's donated so they can follow up, or likewise same for us. When you're coming into donation seasons, when you're going to campaign, you have total control over whatever you want to do. But you also do not accept the money. The money just gets processed through the payment processor, and then it goes over to RABF. It doesn't touch you at all, because you can log into if you're an online retailer, you can log into your online account and change your bank account and change the beneficiary, validate that, do the $1 transaction, verify the date and time of the $1 transaction, and it switches bank accounts in 5, 10, 15 minutes.
I see a couple of upsides to what James is saying there. If you had a single page like that, and one of the questions that I had previously was, where do the people go to ask for help? On that page also, it could be a donate or ask for help link. And if they needed something, they could fill out the information. Here's our qualifications, asking for help, if you had a single page. And then also each of our groups, and I know my Eagle Group 20 website, I'd be happy to put a page in there with a link to that page. So each of our groups could promote that also. ARA, AFA, Eagle Group, any of the groups could put a link page that would link back to that page. Even RABF could put a link back to that page. So I certainly would see a benefit to what James is saying. And I don't think the cost would be that much based on what I pay for the Eagle Group web page and phone app.
I have a web developer that I've lent time over to some of the data projects for like storage. He's been doing some graphic design for what's the fella out of West Texas? Anyway, he's worked with me and Michael Eusebio for like 20 years, right? And he would, I could even donate that time, pay for his cost to do some of that, and then later figure it out in the back end. So they're not we're not coming right out of the gates with, my donation initially could just be, hey, I'll pay for his web development time to stand something up. Where it resides in terms of a domain, that would be the next question. Is it its own domain, or is it underneath the RABF domain, or is it underneath the ARA domain, or is there where is it? A domain's simple though.
It should be under the RABF, James. We want to push it there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you disagree with that, but I would not.
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm maybe thinking a little bit further down and worried about like certain capabilities. And like Ron brought up a good point that I wasn't even initially thinking about, is like, how are you going to how do you go about submittal and processing without controlling the site? How do you go about processing my documents? I'm a little agent out here and I want to submit you documents. You have to think about web development from the very beginning, because otherwise you're going to be meeting in committees for which are very difficult to meet. And we're going to be trying to go through 20, 30, 40 member applications. We could be trying to go through hundreds. Jeremiah and Dave are going to go out there and land hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all of a sudden we're going to go, okay, we got to get the message out that we have funds available, and how do we need to point them there, and then how do we process the documents? So if you have a little bit of web development using very simple off-the-shelf I mean, some of this stuff's done by AI now, right? Like even prior to that, there you could stand up a website in a couple. I stood up my first website. Many of us have just by logging into the account and pressing publish. You know, so
I have and James, I kind of agree with the strategy there. Depending on, and I think it's up to this group too to really figure out what we want the RIM identity to be, right? Because you're creating a brand of some sort. If we're only focusing RIM on agent safety equipment and donations, yeah, you could put it under RABF. You could have a link. You could have your own site, like your own page, at least to explain what it is. That could even live in the RABF site. But if RIM's going to be way more than that in the future, then you kind of do need to start building your own brand and your own identity, even if it supports the RABF and it's through the RABF. You could try to commingle the two things together, but depending on who controls their site and what access we have to that person or business or whatever, then I think it does need to be a decision that needs to be made around ease of use, ease of functionality, access of those individuals, how, monthly reporting, because we gotta have some ability to publish, and give credit where credit's due to the people that donate and say, thank you for doing this. And here's a list, kind of like REBF does on their site. But it really depends on, I think you started like, what do we want RIM to be? And then what do we want that to look like? Do we want it to have its own true brand identity and story, or are we okay just cramming it under RABF and leaving it like that? And we're just wanting a way to process donations, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, the most important piece of this whole project so far is getting equipment in the hands of people who need it. All the other stuff is fluff, and whether you give thanks or not, I don't really give a crap. Let's figure out the fastest and most economical way to get agents the equipment they need. So, I don't disagree with either side. I think the functionality of the RABF website, it is a slightly antiquated, but it's functional. There's no need to necessarily reinvent that wheel. If we can put a page on there to talk about recovery industry masterminds and what it's all about, and it could live in their site as its own tab, and we could still redo the donation page so that it is a choice for people, that they still have the ability to give the both at the same time, I think creates a better process for the giver. But it also, you're using their brand, which has, been established for years, and people know it and trust it. I don't know if that needs to be changed necessarily, if we could just bolt onto it. So I think if it were me, I would say have a meeting with whoever controls that website first, and with Ed, and say, what kind of functionality do we have? What kind of leeway do we have to modify or add to? And then secondarily, we can easily make the decision on the next step. Do we want to have our own page, or do we want to just donate through RABF because our identity isn't that important?
right.
That's true, Jeremiah. We really don't want to blow our name up. It's really RABF, their name is recognized. I prefer it. James, I understand what you're saying, but I prefer everything go to their site as a tab. And if we need to create something in the background, put that tab, it needs to be on their site.
Well, certainly every one of my concerns can be alleviated by their web developer producing immediate notifications, logs, spreadsheets, reporting monthly or weekly or whatever on who the users are. And we could be exporting those and creating, outbound propaganda on what's happened. Bob has donated $5,000, recognizing Bob out of Southwest Louisiana, whatever you could do all that, but it's going to be dependent and subordinate to their response.
So reporting and transparency is what you're pretty much.
Yeah, that's the intention. And then, Vaughn, before we get too far, I just wanted to let you know I uploaded 2 documents. We don't need to jump to those, but I have those in there for that part. Speaking of getting body armor into the right people's hands, I just wanted you and I had talked a little bit. I want to just post that to a pin at the end of the meeting. I want to give you opportunity to get the rest of the other items that are more kind of uphill from that.
Okay.
Done.
Okay, I see them. Well, let's kind of circle back, guys, and Amy. What are we voting on? I think we kind of moved. We want to make sure we at least, to Ron's point, he's hearing nothing has been done. Coming out of this, we want to have something that we've actually accomplished moving forward. So, Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so you said, what are we voting on? I think we all agree that we just need to vote on the credentials, which I think we laid out there when you said the ARA, Eagle 20 Allied, or other approved and recognized industry association or group. So I think that's what we're voting on. And then are we going to leave the wording as it was changed?
Yeah, I think we should amend it to what how Ron changed. Ron pretty much changed the deal. So I'm going to amend that motion if it's okay with everyone. So I'm going to make a motion for anyone that takes advantage of the RIM as far as, let's rephrase that.
To acquire approval or something. It's, you will be issuing approval. They won't be able to take advantage of it without your approval. So it's the.
Right. Anyone being considered as a recipient for a RIM contribution or gift must be a member in good standings with ARA, Eagle Group 20, or AFA, or any other approved and recognized industry association or group.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have this second. Any this further discussion on that? Okay, let's go for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. I think I can see everyone but Amy.
Sorry.
Okay. So that vote carries unanimously. We at least we have something we can walk out of here that we agree on and can move forward. So moving forward, if we can look at the next steps, and I think the next step really is to get this agreement out for consideration. And James, back to your point, when I send this out, it'll be just pretty much general. I think all of us, when you talk about reporting and transparency, that verbiage needs to be put into this document. We could talk about it when we sit down with the RABF, but we need to make sure we're crystal clear with everything we want, and it must be mutually beneficial to them as well. As far as the website, that needs to be a part of here. But I want to make sure that that's the next step, is to get that out, get the agreement formulated, sent to the committee. We make adjustments and then send it out to the RABF, and then set a time for us all to get back and discuss how we're going to move this thing forward. Is that agreeable, guys?
Agree with me.
Okay. Tony, the public announcement, I guess you're going to use these notes to make a public announcement that we met, just to get that out.
Yep.
That's the next step.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, guys, I'm losing my voice. I've been talking all week, and my voice is just gone. James, I think you can go to your bullets now.
Tony, would you like me to present real quickly, just quickly, or everybody can open the documents that I sent over? This is just a real rough draft. This is just a capability statement from a supplier I've been working with. Full disclosure, this is an acquaintance of mine. Our kids played soccer together. The guy is a disabled service veteran, served in Iraq. He was a machine gunner in Iraq. Good man. I first became aware of his company because every day when I drop off my kids at school, I see Tacticon Armament as the $15,000 a year sponsor to the elementary school. And I'm like, God, that's hilarious. There's not a lot of elementary schools that would put a body armor and gun company on the front gate of the school as a donation. And so Jake and I are, Jake is featured on that second page, shooting out of a Humvee. But
Hey,
These
James,
guys supply body armor and equipment to a lot of smaller police departments that can't get the attention of the large body armor producers. And within this government contractor body armor supplier world, there are a number of issues. You know, when I bought my first body armor, they acted like I couldn't buy it, like I wasn't allowed to, even though there's no prohibition period for myself at the time to buy body armor. They made me issue a letterhead on letter from my company, and they made me do all these hoops that were just made up out of thin air. There was no legal basis for these hoops. Even in California, there was no prohibition on body armor besides felon in possession. Even the felon in possession was even the felon in possession is literally at federal level just a piece of paper. If you're at work and you're working a job, you can have 10 felons with body armor every day, all day, no problem. And so a lot of companies have a greater than thou mentality. They have an us versus them, law enforcement versus civilian attitude. And then a lot of them are just so busy that they're big, that they're large, multinational, publicly traded companies. And so, you know, I talked to Jake, and he gets calls all the time where like small departments can't get samples. They can't do their own testing. They can't shoot at the body armor that they're buying, and they can't get callbacks from the big companies. So I talked to him about what we're doing, and him and a few of the other people within his organization. I asked them for a capability statement just so I can introduce you guys to them. And then we did some talking on like, you know, how do you start out with body armor. Maybe you're taking some donations and you're getting, you know, 25% discounts for people or whatever it is. We don't know if we're going to have 200,000 or $25 to begin with, but we're going to have some money. And we talked about how they would do that. They're familiar with, you know, where they'll have departments have two forms of payment, right? Where they'll create a process on their front end. They're open to the idea of creating a process on their front end where someone can get online, make a purchase, put in a code, or click a box and say that they're applying for the discount, and then the shipment and the payment would hold until we approved it. However that needs to work, they're open to those ideas. They're also a company that wants to get body armor into the hands of as many people as possible. And that's not true of most, if not 80% of body armor companies. Most of those companies want to get body armor into department hands, into agency hands. And then as a side, when they have some overruns, they kind of want to sell to public just to get rid of the material. But there's definitely an us versus them, and repossessors may kind of fit into the us occasionally, but the attitude often is them. So this is a company that I think, you know, Service Disabled Veteran Small Business Association, you can go through their list. I don't need to read all of them. They are right now, most of it's all hard and ceramic armor. They have a pending NIJ certification for 2 different sets of armor for soft armor, which would be mostly what people would be more comfortable with. But I think even if we went another route where we had 2 different or 3 different suppliers that we worked with, these guys will be able to produce, and they're already in the early phases of working on something for me. And I've shared with Vaughn a few months ago, the conversation was that, you know, to up armor of, you know, a guy wearing a bulletproof vest in a vehicle, right? And when you're driving down the road, doesn't protect you from getting shot through the window, getting shot through the back window, getting shot through the side. You know, you still have a lot of vulnerability inside your vehicle. It's probably the most dangerous place you can be because you're a very clear target. So where these guys are different than a large body armor company, which may also be a good solution for us, is that these guys can press out test runs of up armoring our trucks. And so the thought process goes is, you know, if we use these guys for the soft armor and we at the same time work with, most of us drive one of 3 brands of trucks. Most of us, the majority, drive one of 2 brands of trucks. If we have additional affordable up armoring available for the trucks themselves, that adds an additional layer of protection for guys. That market of up armoring trucks is absolutely just 100% geared towards .gov. So when you look at up armored vehicles, you take like a $50,000 or $100,000 Escalade or $100,000 Tahoe. To buy an up armored Tahoe is $250,000 or $500,000. So we're not talking about anything that's comparable to what the government's buying, but you could get 50 to 60% of the value of protection for the agent in the vehicle without having to go to that extent. We could be talking about $2,500 for someone to add a back plate behind the seat so that they can't be shot through the back window, which is how 2 of my shootings happened. We could be talking about a soft armor, about a $500 piece of soft armor that can go down, take the door panel off, glue it to the inside of the door panel, and now the door panel's armored. And you can potentially armor the other door panel, or you can carry that piece of sheet steel around. You know, you imagine like a race car. Have you seen the race car seats that kind of come around like this? You know, you don't want to be too close to the driver. But my point here is that these guys are all about, not because of profit. I mean, their motto is value over profit. And if you look at the stuff they sell on their website, they sell like value, lower end, kind of affordable, get optics and get materials and get things out to as many people as possible is sort of their mission statement. So I guess my hope is to, and what I've told them is like, hey, soft armor to me is the first step. Second step is to get some test runs for a couple of the agencies in the United States. They can start with my trucks. I'll pay the 100% of the expense out of pocket. I'm not asking for any discount from them or leading them to some future profit. I'll pay for 100% of the cost, get a couple of my trucks up armored, and then make a copy of that and get it out to Richard or get it out to Vaughn or get it out to somebody else, get some feedback. Fast forward 24 months, I think RIM, with the weight of this industry and the weight of the people involved, can go to Miller Industries and connect the dots between this small company and Miller Industries. And these guys could start pressing out the materials so that you could, when you buy your repossession truck, you can select a $2,500 or a $5,000 option, and it could come with the body armor and the door panel, and it can, the soft armor and the door panel, and it can come with the metal plate behind the seat. It's not going to be perfect. You can still be shot through the front window. You can still be shot through the glass side window. But if you have a metal plate you can set back into, once you start hearing the gunfire go, you're going to have a way higher level of survivability. I don't think we would be able to get that done with almost anyone else. And I've been thinking about this topic and working on this. We've had armor behind our seats over the last 20 years. And we never could find anybody who wanted to do it on a regular basis without first thinking about 100% profit, not value. It was always, this is how much it costs and you need to buy 100 of them, or this is how much it costs and, you know, we won't do it unless we get a certain number of buyers. Whereas these guys are willing to start testing that, both concepts at the same time, supporting the initial mission and then working towards a greater mission. Certainly, I think we probably should get some committee members onto a meeting. I don't know, it needs to be the full committee or a subcommittee or a smaller group, however you guys want to do it. But I think that we should start a conversation and set a meeting to talk to these guys. Or maybe someone comes out with me and goes and they have a shooting facility where they can shoot at their armor. and kind of give you a sense of, you know, what we're all talking about here.
You know, I think James is exactly right there. The truck that I drive, I bought through the Texas Rangers as a former Ranger, and it has exactly what he's talking about. The Kevlar lined doors, the back compartment is Kevlar lined, and there's a drop down pad that goes over the back windshield. What they've got there, James, is like the headrest that just plugs in with the two poles, has a wraparound that protects your head. And so, you know, you don't have to be leaning way back, but if firing starts, you can lean back. If you try to put bulletproof glass, the weight of the vehicle goes up tremendously in the cost, but it costs $2,800 for the package that's on my truck. The engine compartment's Kevlar lined, the back window, and actually the back of the truck there is Kevlar lined above the bed of the truck. And you know, so many people they put on body armor and they get this false sense of security. And like James said, I mean, around through the window, around in the head, you know, that's where you're going to get hit. And officers are shot every day and injured and killed wearing body armor. And, you know, to armor the truck, to me, is a much smarter thing than trying to armor the person. But both, of course, is the optimum. I carry body armor. I work with different law enforcement groups, so it's still in teach. So I still carry body armor, but it's all soft body armor. But I think this company, if they're willing to work like that, you know, I thank James for the work that he's done there, the research on it, and I think it's a great idea, James. I'd be happy to work on any committee that's set up like that, you know, looking at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, Ron, I'd love to have you out and come meet them, see them shoot some of the equipment they have, multiple different plate sets, shoot the steel that they're suggesting, that, you know, could create a value again, because I don't know that we don't need to get all the way to the point that Miller has agreed to start installing this at inception as an option, which obviously would be amazing if this committee had the effect that the #1 tow truck producer in the United States was now providing the ability for the upfitters to option your truck and have it come out of the factory or come out of the local builder with the materials and it be financed for you. So you have no cost, right? That's something that I think if we have that effect, it doesn't even necessarily have to be money that we're putting out, although that could be a part of it. But that if we had that effect, that would change the industry for not only the first guy who buys the truck new, but the next agent who buys the truck used. It could save lives down the line. Whereas, you know, so I think we're working 2 levels here, right? Or 3 levels. Let's get the committee going. But at the same time, I've been kind of unofficially and delicately, because I know I don't have the agreement of the group, talking about this with them, working on some ideas, sketching up, you know, some bullet points and different objectives. And certainly, Ron, we should probably look into the company that does that option for the Texas Rangers, but it may be a .gov only option potentially, that maybe they're able to buy cars in a certain way through the GSA. So,
yeah, they only work with law enforcement. So I think
Exactly.
your company, if they'll work with us, you know, New York, to the best of my knowledge, is the only state that actually has a state law forbidding civilians to own, wear, or use body armor. And actually, there's a keyhole. You can own it, but you can't wear it. There are
most
also
of them,
the
Ron,
federal statutes.
most of them, Ron, are all, most of them, with the except, I think Massachusetts, but we need to get that matrix together, by the way. But
Yeah.
most of them are all out the window if you're under employment.
Right. The
So
federal
all of,
statute.
like
Yeah.
even out here and at the federal level, there's a felon in possession body armor ban. We put body armor on our felons out here because there's an exemption because they're working.
Right.
Now they
Absolutely
know,
right.
like, hey man, you can't go wearing this around town, not while you're not working. Like,
Yeah.
don't be an idiot. But in any event, I think so. I guess Vaughn, what do you want to do next with that information?
Well, I think we definitely don't want to use a single source, James. I understand what you're saying. These definitely could be one, and I think we should we should also have one or two others lined up with them. So there's a choice based on cost. And we also have to keep in mind, we're looking for body cameras as well. So as far as the trucks being outfitted, I think you and Ron could get together on that, but I would definitely like to move forward with the body armor for the person and the cameras first, and then we can spare off on that one as we move along, if that's okay.
No, totally, of course. And I don't even know that the paying for or creating a contribution to needs to have anything to do with this up armoring the trucks thing.
Mm-hmm.
This could be something that the committee just has the ability to take credit for.
Understood.
Point to announce, hey, this is not a part of the discount program, but this is something the committee has worked on. There's a supplier. Here's their information. Here's the pictures. Here's the most recently outfitted truck. Here's how you contact them. Down the line, depending on many factors, the committee can decide to do something different. But I think we could work both angles kind of simultaneously. It's no sweat off my back to up armor a couple of my trucks and do it. And then just, if the committee likes it and wants to announce that it's available, and if there's a part number, here's something we've worked on to bring to the community, but there's no discount. It's just, we're announcing that there's something out there available to you at a very affordable cost.
While we're talking, I just got this picture.
Wow.
That's one of my Eagle Group 20 members. There's a notation under it. It says, a crazy person jumped inside one of my driver's trucks and began hitting him with an object. This is what we're looking at, guys, and it's happening every day. So, I mean, we need to move forward as fast as possible. And Vaughn, you're absolutely right. Any level of protection that we can get to and get to it fast gives more credibility to RIM and more credibility to what we're trying to do here.
I agree, Ron. This is all about safety. And that's why I think it's important that anyone who takes advantage of what we're going to offer them, we can almost guarantee that they've gone either under Ron, your program, or the program out there in Tennessee, but something that qualifies them to be consumer facing and understand the purpose of them staying safe first. That guy there, Ron, I don't know whether his doors were locked. You just don't know. You just don't know.
Obviously, they weren't
that
locked.
brings up
He
another
couldn't get them
point.
in. Couldn't get in.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, first thing you do is lock the door.
Well, but guys, I hope you know that the trucks are coming from the factory programmed to auto open on park. So that's another thing where I think we could, the RIM committee could influence Miller to order the trucks from Dodge with that option deleted.
Is there
Dodge and Ford, delete that option. We do not want our passenger doors opening on park.
James, is there a way to adjust that setting?
You have to most recently, I think you can now do it on the computer on the dash, depending on which model. But in the past, we had to take them into the dealer.
Well, maybe that's
programmed out.
That's some information. There's training right there that most people just don't know. And like this,
so the RIM committee, outside of the discount, the RIM committee could be putting these pieces of information out.
I agree. Hey, I want to open the floor to anybody. Richard, Amy, Jeremiah, Ron, anything you guys want to chime in on before we push this over to Tony for our next steps and what we're going to do next?
I'm good.
Okay.
No, I'm fine. I just want to say one thing, Vaughn. I kind of like where Jeremiah said, and also I like the idea of the control, though, of maybe creating a website, but the money diverts back over because, we just don't know what the future holds. Something can go south in the relationship. But if we maintain the control, this is just my opinion. If you had 100% total control, then trying to reel it back in and gain control, maybe something to think about for the future. Just something to think about.
Okay. Ron?
I think we've covered a lot today, and I think we've moved forward quite a bit. Once again, I think our main objective is the safety of the people out there. Immediately upon closing this, I'm going to put a message out to all the Eagle Group people. And I think somebody told me yesterday it was 120. I don't count them, so I don't know how many there are. but lock your doors. I mean, that's something we probably never thought about before. And, James's idea of getting the trucks programmed where they don't automatically unlock is an excellent idea. I just think the main thing we need to concentrate on is action and fast action on the part of RIM.
I agree. Amy?
Yeah, so Vaughn, I had one more question. In addition to the proactive measure of the physical armor and everything that we're talking about and cameras, is another goal and initiative of RIM going to be just the continuing safety and education and putting information out there, like going to be like a resource too? My attorney Mark and I, we did presentation on like breach of peace and how to avoid a breach of peace and how it leads to violence. Like, is that something that we're going to be working on too? Or we're going to be solely focused on the fundraising?
So I think we should really, and you guys can agree on this. I think if we're going to really defer, I think we should defer that to the associations and like Eagle.
Okay.
Only because we don't want to get too big for our britches and
Right.
take a whole nother deal.
Okay. So if it's being done already, maybe just call attention to it somehow.
Exactly. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Star, nice of you to join us from your racetrack.
Oh, sorry. I'm finally at the airport. It took longer than I thought.
That's okay. I'm just ribbing you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Jeremiah, I didn't want to miss you. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Star, this call was recorded, so Tony will share it with you and anybody else who missed it. So you can.
That'd be amazing. I'll listen on my flight.
Okay, good deal. Tony, turn it over to you.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks a lot for showing up. I know it's takes time, effort, energy, so it says a lot. I will put I'll get the recording prepped and sent out to everybody, and just put a recap together and send it out. And then as far as the public announcement, my goal would be to have that out within the next week or so. And then, Vaughn, I'll share it with you on the front end or before I send it out. And then you can, if there's anything that needs to be scrubbed, we can do that.
Okay, Tony, do you think you can get, I know tomorrow, we don't want to push anything on Friday. Monday's the holiday. Do you think we could have that standing up by Tuesday?
The announcement?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably by end of day.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
I think I'm kind of going back to what Ron said. We need to show the public that we're doing something.
Yeah.
Don't want to rush you, Tony, but I think we should.
You want?
Huh?
Are we going to announce it and that we've decided that? What are we going to tell? What are we telling people?
I think we should tell them exactly what we voted on. I think
you feel like that's chewable and tangible to say that we've done something.
Yeah, and here's why I say that. First, it's important that we let them know that we met. Secondly, they need to know up front that we're not trying to become some socialist program. And I'm kind of going back to Ron to our first meeting. It's going to take, you're going to have to give something to get this. What are you going to give? You're going to give some of your time to be trained. That's our purpose. So yeah, I think we should. Listen,
I'm not discouraging you from making it. I'm just, do you want me to go get some pictures of them like shooting at body armor and saying that we're evaluating body armor companies?
We're not saying, no, not that portion. No, absolutely. Tony will word this correctly, where it comes out that we're just giving an update.
Looking at it from a repossessor standpoint. Man.
No, I think it's important for us to give them some of the verbiage that we discussed of the qualifications that's going to be needed to benefit from this gift that the RIM committee is outlining for anyone who wants to take advantage of. I think it's important to say it, James. Now, I'll defer.
Again, I'm not disagreeing. I don't think it's enough to chew on. I think they need to see us that we're dry, because this qualification thing over here is absolutely 100% important. The administration of this is paramount. But what
I think we need to put in there that we're doing research and development, and along with what James is saying, something about that the RIM is doing research and development on arming people and arming trucks, arming the agent and not arming. I want to say arming, protecting the agent and protecting the truck through body
arms
armor.
of defense and
something along that lines.
Yeah.
Do you think we should not say anything about the fact that we've collaborated with the RABF and we've reached an agreement with them to
Totally.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely too. Yeah.
In there, yeah.
But one thing is mechanically tangible, where another thing is administratively, like it's administrative frameworks are being worked on, blah, 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 blah. In addition, we've reached agreements with RABF, strategic partnership to support the most well-known, you know, and give them their due. And then at the same time, we're not, you know, understanding we're doing, this is down the line, but we're on site evaluating body armor companies.
Okay.
You can say something like a committee has been formed. I mean, you can mention names, James, Ron Brown, you know,
Yes.
Looking at body armor and, you know, something along those lines so that, you know, there's specifics there. And I think that's what James is saying, something that they, not just administrative, but that we're physically doing something and moving forward with it.
Understood. Tony, I guess you heard all that, but what I would maybe instead of just sending me your draft, send it to the entire group.
Yeah.
Because somebody in here may think we need to add or take away from the before we push.
Yeah.
Is that doable?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So,
you know, just a general comment. I think it's perception is important, but I think it's the fact that everybody on the committee here is they're donating their time, energy, and effort. I think that needs to be recognized, and we're going to hear some. I mean, there are naysayers across the board. No matter, you know, no good deed goes unpunished, right? So I think we want to do this as fast as possible, but I also think it's important that the foundation be set and done right from the outset. And I don't think that should be rushed.
understood. So what are you recommending, Tony?
It's really just not to be overly influenced by naysayers.
Understood.
That's it.
Okay. I would like to get something out. And I don't want to rush you. If you feel we want to wait till Thursday of next week, fine. But I think the wheels are starting to churn now.
Mhm.
It's important not listening to what the naysayers are saying, but you know, when you're absent, when you're silent, they only can go by what they're hearing, which is nothing.
Can I just for a second, and I'll try to be as short as I possibly can be, and you guys know me. Let's not frame it as being concerned about naysayers. Let's try to prevent the next murder. Let's try to get this done. Our motivation is the father who won't come home, or the guy who's going to be injured and never be able to work and live the same way. And this committee has the ability to go way beyond what we're even thinking right now and to change the industry. It changed not the mechanics of it, but to influence what type of equipment the person wears, what kind of training, what kind of support system they have, what kind of truck they're driving. The weight of this committee can do that. So let's do it as quick as possible. Based on that, not on the naysayers. Let's do it based on our own love for our own family.
Well said. Well said. Okay, I'll throw this agreement out to the group for you guys to redline, and then I'll make sure once you guys give me the okay, the final version, we'll try to get a call going with the RABF group. Submit that agreement to them for them to review, and then we'll try to come together as a group with their group and make some decisions. Okay, Tony.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
And
guys.
do we want to talk about getting another meeting on the calendar?
You know what? I think what we'll do is the next meeting will probably involve the RABF group. I think anything we do can go back and forth with emails with this agreement, and that will be the next meeting. We're going to push this a little quicker than we have been going.
Okay.
If that's okay with the group.
Do we want to set like a goal for a timeline, to try to keep a good cadence to have a meeting with the RABF group? I mean, is there like do we
Yeah.
want to 30 days or something like
I'm
that?
thinking 30 days, Amy. I think we should move forward with this. I don't want to say quickly, but James, you just said it. We have a responsibility as this committee to maybe prevent another catastrophe in someone's life. So 30 days should be the minimum. Okay, group.
Okay.
Thanks much. Appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank all of you for your
Thanks.
work.